Happy Friday, everybody. Happy UFC Vegas 24 and Triller Fight Club Eve, everybody. Tomorrow's going to be a big night in the combat sports world. Of course, the boxing match everybody's talking about, Jake Paul versus Ben Askren going down on Triller. And then over on ESPN+. Hello there. How are you? We got Robert Whitaker versus Kelvin Gaslum headlining UFC Vegas 24. And we're going to talk all about it right here. This is the UFC Vegas 24 and Paul versus Askren preview show here on MMAfighting.com. I am Mike Heck, and we got the whole crew here. We got José Youngs, as you just kind of saw. We'll see him again.
Nope.
There's AK.
How dare you? There you go. Bam.
We have Alex Cayley, the Prince of Positivity, of course. Hello.
That's not. Oh,
Hey. And the now former BTL champion, Jed Meshew, joining us this week on the program. How are you, Jed?
I'm doing really well. The fans who are watching, just so we're clear, everybody agreed off camera that I won yesterday. They just won't say it on camera because they're cowards.
Fair enough. Casey's already admitted that he's second guessing himself, but it was a spirited battle nonetheless. But that's neither here nor there. But Jed, let us begin with you, my friend. For those who missed between the links yesterday, you are going to be in attendance tomorrow in Atlanta for the big boxing match with Jake Paul and Ben Askren. This is actually happening, and I remember you reacting to this fight being booked in January. You weren't thrilled about it. So for those who missed between the links, how are you feeling about it now? You must be jazzed.
I'm stoked. I have done a total 180 from the first time we talked about this. I blame that. I think I was competing against Steven Morocco, who just is the anti-fun. So I blame all of that on him because this is going to be great. Ben Askren's like 100. AK Lee and I wrote a piece that should be going up, I think today, maybe tomorrow, picking sides in this fight. And I'm just stoked, man. Like Ben Askren can't box. Jake Paul can kind of box, but he's also not a real combat sports athlete. They're both terrible, and I want to watch both of them get punched in the face. The only downside is that one of them will win. Though I actually have come to the determination there's a really high likelihood of a headbutt stoppage in this fight, which would be just chef's kiss beautiful.
AK, how are we feeling about this? You are the Prince of Positivity. We are 29 hours away. How are we feeling?
super jazzed. I mean, as Jed mentioned, we did a little projection speech, which is about to go up. And I don't know. I assume for Jed's side as well. I usually tell when Jed had an easy time writing on something. This was like one of the easiest debate things to write. I guess because we probably talked about it so much. There's just a lot of ideas bouncing around there already. But Jed and I do, Great Divide all the time. And some of the topics are like easy to write. Some of them are kind of clunky. This was just like, I think this maybe took me like 15 minutes to get my thoughts down, and in a good way, not like as in I didn't care, as in like, man, it just made sense. All the storylines going into it, all the kind of like analysis we've done for what's on paper a ridiculous fight. It does kind of make for a fun thing to talk about, and I think will be fun to watch. Regardless of what side of the debate you've done, whether you think these like freak shows are terrible, celebrity fights are terrible, or you love celebrity fights and you love these kind of novel things. I think no matter what. And whether you decide to watch it or just read the results or just watch the highlights, I really think it's going to captivate people's attentions for better or for worse. And how long will the after effects last? I mean, is this like 15 minutes of fame for this fight and we'll all kind of forget it like 2 months from now? Entirely possible. Like, I don't think this is like a Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor thing, which, is a once in a lifetime event that'll go down forever. But it's for now very, very fun to digest. And, I am looking forward to it. And if we don't see at least one like Prince Nazim, like not like a back body drop thing, accidental from Askren, then I'm going to be very, very disappointed.
Right now, Jake Paul, a -167 favorite. The comeback on Ben Askren, +138. Other sites have Jake Paul as high as a -220 favorite heading into tomorrow. But I don't think AK is a troll. But anyways, Jose, how many preview shows have we done where we find a fight and you talk about how much you enjoy just high-level martial arts and great fights and, facey punchy and all that great stuff? Like you're looking for competitive matchups, like great high-level combat sports action. You're also a big boxing fan on top of that. So What does this fight do for you?
The main event? Ooh, what does it do for me? I mean, it is what it is. It's a professional boxing match. I don't really care one way or another who wins or who loses. I'm here for the circus, and I do love high-level martial arts and face punching, and I love boxing, and I think high-level boxing is one of the most enjoyable things to watch in all sports, but that is not this, and sometimes you just need to steer into the car crash and accept that you are just feeding into this. So, yeah, I am all in on this crazy circus, but I don't particularly care who wins this fight.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you on that one.
I just want chaos.
Come on.
Yeah.
I said this yesterday. You're both lying because everyone's lying. We all want Jake Paul to win. Clicks want Jake Paul to win. The almighty click. Come on.
Explain why, Jed.
No.
Because Ben Askren wouldn't go do business for us. Like, he does it for one night. If Jake Paul wins, we're definitely getting McGregor Paul if Paul wins. Like that's a thing that is happening probably this year, maybe the beginning of next year if Conor somehow wins a trilogy fight with Dustin. But like, if Conor and Dustin fight and Conor gets knocked out again, what are his other options? It's Nate Diaz, maybe, if he wants to do that. But then that runs the risk of getting got 3 times in a row in MMA. So, no, he's going to take the biggest upside, most money boxing match against Jake friggin' Paul. And that is a click bonanza. For the sake of our jobs, we want Jake Paul to win. And I hate Jake Paul. I just also hate Ben Askren, so I'm not that upset if Jake Paul wins. And it's way better for us as a company and us as people.
As
AK,
people,
like
hold on.
Go ahead, AK. Go ahead.
Listen. Well, in fairness to Jed, no one winning any fights in this world is going to make us better as people. We're doomed no matter what. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as as long as this many good guys win. We're watching MMA. Let's be honest with ourselves. So there's some merit to that comment. We certainly won't be better as people if Jake Paul wins. No, look, I love clicks. Okay, anyone who knows me, I envision myself as someone toiling away in the click mines daily, and I take pride in it. Okay, I take pride in digging for clicks. All right, I'm that kind of guy. But here's the thing: is I really dislike Jake Paul for a variety of reasons, big and small. Whatever your reasons are for disliking Jake Paul, I know people have hundreds of them. I probably have a bunch of those. Well, pick one. I don't like the guy. Ben Askren isn't great. I don't know how you feel about Ben Askren. He's maybe not a great guy either, but at least he's quote unquote one of us. He's part of the MMA family, if you want to extend it that far. So no, I'm not a fan of Jake Paul. I would like to see him get his butt kicked. Also, just because I think I just think a experienced combat sports guy should win. That's just it. And then I don't know. Should, deserves, whatever in this business. I know, stupid words, but I do want to see Askren. I do have a horse in this race. And here's the other sad thing, Jed, is we know there's another Jake Paul just around the corner. That's the other thing. It's not like I'm being honestly. It's not like I'm being virtuous here and going like, oh, I'm above it. I don't care about getting clicks. It's like, of course I do. I just know that for every Jake Paul, there's 20 other Jake Pauls waiting to come. Maybe it'll be 3 months down the road, 4 months next year. There's another guy coming. So whether it's him or someone else, some other dirtbag's going to get the clicks. Yeah.
I'll take the Jake Paul in the hand versus
he's not special.
Jake Paul's in the bush.
There's no maybe. He's not special. Jed, he's not special. There's nothing special or extraordinary about this guy.
You guys are thinking you guys think Jake Paul should win because he has more video views on our YouTube page? Is that what you're saying?
No, not
that's
because
what Jed's saying. I did not say this at all.
Correction. I know that Askren is clocking bigger numbers for us now, but if Askren wins, he's not going to do anything with it. Like, maybe he does another celebrity boxing match against Logan, but like probably Askren wins and that's it. Maybe he decides, I can come back for an MMA fight, but that'll happen win or lose. If Askren wins, it's a one shot. If Jake Paul wins, we're getting more Jake Paul MMA fighter content, because if he loses to Askren, no MMA fighter's gonna fight him like, dude, you just got by Ben Askren. F off. But if he beats him, then we get the Conor big one that we could all dine out on that for years. We don't have to have jobs after that when we get so many clicks.
If Jake Paul loses, he's going to fight Dylan Dennis.
You think so?
No, I see you shaking your head, but that is what is the plan.
I
So
think that
you
fight
can
happens someday,
shake
no
your head
matter
all
what.
you want. That's going
Yeah.
to happen, and Connor
That
cannot
fight happens.
fight.
Yeah.
Connor cannot fight Jake Paul by the end of the year. I think he is going to take a bunch of fights to fight out his contract, a la Anthony Pettis, and then he can fight Jake Paul and take the lion's share and not have to split it with the UFC because he likes money, which is why I'm very surprised he's fighting in Las Vegas because he doesn't get taxed in Abu Dhabi. But that's a whole nother conversation to begin with.
Maybe.
Okay.
I could maybe see it. Either way, we want Jake Paul to win because him winning is the path to us getting Paul Connor. And that's what we all want, or what we should want.
Maybe.
Sure.
Maybe that's
Jake
the
Paul
case.
loses. He fights Dylan Dennis. He beats Dylan Dennis 10 out of 10 times. And then Dylan Dennis's friends, Connor, will fight Jake Paul. And then there's another story for you.
Ooh,
Jed,
you
we
really
got a
think he
question.
beat Dylan Dennis?
10 out of 10 times. In a boxing match, 10 out of 10 times.
Is there a question for Jed that we can read on air, Mike? That's
There was
not-
there
that doesn't
was
need
a
to be censored?
question. No, there was a question. People want to
the
know
truck caught it.
why the disdain for Ben Askren, Jed. People are wondering why this hostility towards the former Bellator and one champ.
Have they never seen Ben Askren as like a person? Like I feel like that's relatively explanatory. My great disdain for him will come just to tell you all you don't care actually, because I do the morning report for the site, which means every day I read all of the tweets of everybody that's directly or indirectly relating to fighting, and he is an awful person on Twitter. Like he tweets a lot. Most of it's about weirdo crypto nonsense, and the rest of it is stuff that's largely like awful or not interesting. Like he's just not. He and I would not be friends. I am happy to admit that he has a very good personality for fight sport and really does a great job at selling fights. Lots of people like him, but I would be a stone cold liar if I said that I didn't think it was great when Jorge Masvidal and Nate face off, because I did, and it still remains delightful, even with Masvidal being what Masvidal is. So, yeah, just don't dig the man too much. And if he wins, he's just gonna go like buy a bunch of different coins and talk about that a lot. And that nobody needs that. That's just not good for the sport. Whereas Jake Paul can win, he can spend all that money on something that's equally abhorrent, but might get us to a Conor McGregor fight. I'm in it for the McGregor fight.
When you say good for the sport, do you mean boxing or MMA?
What good for? When did I say good for the sport?
About 30 seconds ago.
What was that in reference to? I don't remember what I said.
You said
Also,
and then he'll talk
that's a
about-
trick
you
question.
said-
MMA is
he'll
not a
talk
sport.
about
That's a trick question. Come
you said
on.
he'll talk about a bunch of coins, and that's not good for the sport.
Oh yeah, I don't know why I said for the sport. I meant that's just not good for anybody because nobody
Right.
cares. Bitcoin, you're not special. Crypto is cool. Have fun with it yourself. It's like CrossFit. You don't need to tell me about it. Enjoy.
Fun stuff. So that fight's happening. Of course, Frank Mir is entering the boxing realm. He's going to take on Steve Cunningham.
Mhm.
Not a lot of faith at the betting window for Mr. Mir. He's a plus 650 underdog to the 10-1 favorite, Steve Cunningham. So that will be happening before all this other craziness happens. But a lot to discuss. I do want to get to the peeps. So Jose, we will begin with you. Who wins this fight? Ben Askren or Jake Paul? What is your pick?
If it's good, I don't honestly know, and I haven't really put a whole lot of thought into it, so I'm talking about it right now. If it's inside the first 3 rounds, my money would probably have to be on Jake. He's just younger, faster, stronger in his quote athletic prime, whatever that means. To a YouTuber, Ben Askren is coming off of hip surgery. He can't use any of his high level wrestling, obviously. Which if everyone saw Darren Till's tweet, I think that would be the best scenario if we want clicks. If Ben Askren just threw Jake Paul out of the ring, because that would drive absurd amount of traffic, and then all the MMA fighters can just do their little Kickstarter to pay for Ben Askren's legal fees and all that. So, yeah, that would be best for clicks. If it's gonna inside 3, Jake Paul. If you get past 3, I think Ben Askren's chances are just exponential. I do think it'll get past 3, so I'm just gonna say what Ben Askren has been saying, and that's 7th round TKO because I haven't put that much thought into it. And Ben Askren looked at me in the eyes and said that's how he's going to do it. So why not? That's my pick.
AK?
Yeah, Ben makes it ugly. I mean, I think Ben makes it ugly just like he had many times in his MMA career, if we're being honest. I think clinch work is going to be big. I think, his ability to pressure, push the pace is going to be big. I know he's older, but I mean, again, we don't know a lot about Logan, excuse me. So disrespectful of me. Jake Paul's ability to compete past the 5th round. That's the farthest he's ever fought. That was before he turned pro. He fought another YouTuber, and he won by 5th round TKOs. So I don't know. I think cardio matters. I think even an older guy like Askren, just based on his experience, will have better cardio. It is a little shaky because again, he's never done boxing before, so it's a whole other thing. He might tire out in a way that he never has before. I get it. There's a lot of unknowns with Askren as a boxer. We've at least seen Jake Paul compete twice in I guess 3 times if people watch that amateur fight, which I'm sure some kids did, but it's just hard for me to go against knowing the kind of tests that he's been through, not just in MMA, but in the Olympics, NCAA Division I wrestling. I know it's not boxing. I had to, just preface all my statements with it's not boxing, but that level of competition is just so high. And I think it's such a big factor. And I'll admit, look, I've laid my cards out. I may be going now with what I want to happen as opposed to what I think will happen, but I can at least, I wouldn't be surprised now. As when the matchup was first made, I thought, man, this is really bad for Askren. Paul's going to knock him out. But then I put more thought into it now. And now I actually feel comfortable saying I think Askren will win. I don't think it's just a crazy sort of, I wish this is what's going to happen thing. So yeah, I'm going Askren. I'm going to go a round earlier. I think Paul really is going to tire out and go for that knockout furiously in the 1st and 2nd rounds and gas himself out. And Askren survives. And I think he wins by a somewhat uneventful TKO in the 6th round.
So far, there are a lot of, at least what we saw in the comments here, people on the Askren side. Some say decision, some say late finish. We just had Mike T, I think it was, or Mike F, saying that unfortunately Jake Paul's going to get it done. Jed, if we're up to you, we would get a double knockout tomorrow, as you said so eloquently on Between the Links. But I have a feeling that you think this fight is going to go differently than Jose and Mr. AK Lee think it's going to go. How do you see this all going down tomorrow night?
I do want to shout out Jose because he at least was honest in saying that he hasn't really thought this out. AK is clearly lying and hasn't thought it out either, because if you think about it for more than 10 seconds, Jake Paul's going to win this fight unless – I actually do think the cut stoppage thing that I mentioned at the show, that's really possible. But, Ben Askren, again, read the piece of me and AK argue. I put all these points out, but very quickly, Ben Askren is old. Ben Askren – didn't have a hip replaced, but almost had a hip replaced. And he's supposed to be he admitted that in November when we talked to him. I think Damon Martin of our site spoke to him and said, hey, I'm not going to be really fully ready to do anything all the way for a year. It's not a year, but he clearly just thinks he can do this. So he's not fully physically back. That is my interpretation of this. Even if he were, I am astonished that people are picking him to knock out Jake Paul. If I can find a way that he can win that fight. If he can just clinch a lot and lean on Jake Paul, maybe he can just snake some cards. But dude, this guy didn't have any level of KO power when he's with 4-ounce gloves. You put 10 on him, it's gonna be a tickle. He's tickling Jake Paul for 8 rounds. That's where we get going here. It's okay to hate Jake Paul. It's okay to think Jake Paul sucks at boxing because that's true, but he's a pretty decent celebrity boxer already. He's younger. He's faster. He throws more power. I don't think he's going to knock Ben Askren out because Askren has proven that he has a very good chin, Jorge Masvidal's knee notwithstanding. But if you just watch any of Askren fighting, all of his striking that we've ever seen was not even that it was bad. It is mostly bad. But it was largely striking that was entirely built around setting up takedowns. He did a lot of reaching with his hands out so we can try and force clinches. If your hands are out here, they're not protecting your chin. Jake Paul might not be good. He's going to get to ding up. K1 Damian Maia put the wood to Ben Askren on the feet. Jake Paul is going to be able to hit him, and it's just going to be cleaner and look better. If Askren's going to win, it has to be a clinch-heavy, dirty, ugly decision because I actually just straight up don't think he can TKO Paul unless he goes for takedowns. Like if he does that, obviously he wins this in a walk. But I think Paul's going to win. He's going to win a decision unless Askren does lead with his head a lot, and I could legitimately see like a headbutt cut stopping this fight, which, like I said, would just be the absolute best outcome. It would be so funny.
I just want to clarify, when I say 7th round TKO, I don't mean he like stops them a la Mayweather McGregor. I think it could be one of those like Jake Paul. Well, Jake Paul's only fought for 2.5 rounds total, and both fighters he fought just came out guns blazing and blew their gas tank in about 60 seconds, and then Jake Paul just pieced him up with a jab and then knocked him dead. I don't think Ben Askren's going to do that, and I do think Jake Paul could like throw in the towel maybe between 6 and 7 for just pure exhaustion. Because have you seen him hit pads? Have you seen him hit the bag? Dude throws a knockout punch every single punch. You can't sustain that for 8 rounds. You just can't. So if it's going to be a TKO, I think it's going to be a corner stoppage or a doctor stoppage or throwing the towel from pure exhaustion, because he's also a very muscular individual. I don't think he can I know he can't maintain knockout punches for 8 straight rounds. I know Ben Askren can fight for 8 rounds because he's going to probably lean on him, like Jed said. And I have all the faith in the world that Askren can clinch up like he's done in MMA, at least for 5 rounds, maybe? Who knows? But I think
I don't even know if I can.
TK round.
The man has one hip. How's he going to walk him down?
Didn't you hear? Jake Paul's life is on the line in this fight with CTE.
Oh gosh, no, he retracted that. Come on. He issued a retraction. It's all above board. Let's not get this fight canceled, guys. Come on now.
It's above board. Got it.
We need those clicks, boys. Come on, let's not get this fight canceled. Come on now.
All right, before we get to the UFC, you guys are all wrong. Because there's no way this fight's gonna end cleanly. It's just not gonna happen. Like we're gonna see a draw. We're gonna see a draw tomorrow night. Like I'm going with that. I actually think it's gonna be a really entertaining fight, like for what it is. But I don't think we're gonna get a winner. I think it's gonna be a draw. It'll be a fun draw. So. It'll be one where we're like, wow, and then they'll set up a rematch, and here we go. And we're gonna have to do this all over again. That's just the circus that we're in. That's my gut. What my gut is telling me. I think we're gonna see a draw tomorrow night, but it'll be fun for what it is.
You should bet that. I bet you can find some healthy price on that.
Oh yeah. Well, you see the props. The props cover like everything. Yeah, it's up there. The props cover everything. Yeah.
Plus 1,200.
Someone handed me $100. Yeah, if someone handed me $100, I'm forcing you to bet it on something. I'm betting it on a draw. I think it's a pretty good bet. So I told you all before Tyson Jones put it on the draw, and I was right, and you would have cashed in. So
is no contest the same thing, or is no contest no one gets paid?
I don't know.
No contest is nothing, right? No contest is like
no contest should push bets.
Push, right? Yeah. That's what I think.
I hope it's a Badr Hari Rico Verhoeven situation where someone breaks their shoulder in like 45 seconds, and the fight just ends that way. That would be a fantastic.
It does feel like this has to end in some sort of debacle, that we're not going to get some dramatic conclusive finish, right? Like if you could just bet either or, like one shot conclusive finish or something bizarre non-finish happening. Bizarre non-finish would have to be at least 2-1 favorite, right? Like if that were
if this does not end in a finish, it will be a draw. So there you go. We will move ahead. I know there's a lot of fans out there who want to hear us talk about Paul Askren for another 30 minutes, but we're going to move ahead to what's going on the other side of the country in Las Vegas, UFC Vegas 24. We got Robert Whitaker versus Kelvin Gaslum. It's a big one at 185 pounds, especially with how UFC Vegas 23 ended. Marvin Vettori gets a decision win. It was kind of an underwhelming victory in a lot of people's eyes, so it kind of leaves an opening for who could get the title shot against Israel Adesanya. And we have 2 guys who have both fought and lost to Israel Adesanya, competing for the chance to hopefully get a rematch. Both guys want it. Gaslum believes that with the win, he gets it. Whitaker's not even thinking about that right now. He's solely focused on Saturday and fighting Kelvin Gaslum. So, Jed, your thoughts on this fight? Robert Whitaker's approach to, I'm focused on Saturday, my calendar doesn't go beyond that, and Kelvin Gaslum going in saying, this is a #1 contender fight. If I win, I'm fighting Izzy again.
Feels a little bit like Kelvin's working that wishful thinking plan. Maybe it's true. It's possible. I find it a little unlikely just because Kelvin would only be on a 2-fight winning streak coming off a 3-fight losing streak, even though he did have one of the best fights of all time with Izzy the first time. A fight which I was also sitting cage side, happened right up the street here in Atlanta, Georgia. I just sort of think that that's not going to happen. Whitaker, if he does win, should get the title shot. I'm not all the way confident they'll pull the trigger, but I'm pretty confident that's where they'll end up going if Whitaker wins it. But pretty standard from Bobby Knuckles here, just taking it a day at a time, not overstressing or overthinking, and that has worked out for him since losing the title. Just I'm gonna keep doing my thing, and things will happen as they do. I can only be in charge of what I'm in charge of, and it's probably a good plan because as much as Kelvin Gaslum's record is not like the most stellar, he is a really interesting test for Bobby Knuckles this weekend.
What do you think, Jose? This is an interesting matchup. Is a fight that was supposed to happen a couple of years ago. He lost it the day of the fight after Whitaker was hospitalized. He dealt with some serious stuff with a bowel circumstance that was gnarly. That I don't wish upon my worst enemy. But here we are, 2 years later. We're finally going to see it on short notice for 4 weeks for Kelvin Gastelum, but he's in. Your thoughts on this fight for potentially Adesanya's next title challenger?
Well, I loved it when they first announced it, 2 years ago, and I love this fight now. I think Kelvin Gastelum, as Jed said, is one of the more interesting tests that anyone can have in the middleweight division. The dude doesn't stop going forward, and we're talking about cardio. That you'd be hard-pressed to find another middleweight that has better cardio than Kelvin Gastelum. Yeah, I think a lot of us would agree that he's probably a more natural welterweight. But the fact that he doesn't have to cut weight, he has lightning-quick hands, like that counter 1-2 he has, even the one that decapitated Michael Bisping famously. That thing is fast as hell. And I am very excited to watch Bobby Knuckles, the Reaper, throw down with him. Two of the better strikers in the division, two of the best all-around MMA fighters in the division. I think Robert Whitaker already deserves the rematch with Israel Adesanya. I think the big winner in the Marvin Vettori win is Darren Till, because my money is still on Darren Till just skipping the queue and fighting Israel Adesanya, coming off a loss to Robert Whitaker, which is unfortunate. But Izzy wants that fight. I think a lot of fans want that fight. It'll be fun banter, but I think we all agree Darren Till is probably the least deserving because he doesn't have any major wins. Impressive wins outside of the Cowboy Cerrone fight. Yes, he beat Kelvin Gastelum, but I think Kelvin Gastelum was high inside the octagon based on his levels of marijuana coming out of that fight. So in Madison Square Garden. So it would suck for Kelvin and Robert Whitaker for the winner because Darren Till beat Kelvin in a very boring fight. Robert Whitaker beat Darren Till, and if he beats Kelvin Gastelum, he already deserved the win to begin with. If Kelvin wins, I think it'll be an interesting storyline between Marvin Vettori and Kelvin Gastelum, who are main training partners. So maybe we see one of these Usman Burns situations where one of them has to leave King's MMA for a bit or get a new corner or whatever. Because, I mean, Kelvin spoke with our own Damon Martin, said he would only fight Marvin for the title. And I know Marvin feels the same way. So that could be a little interesting storyline. But my money is still on Darren Till winning the Israel Adesanya sweepstakes, and I actually think Robert Whitaker gets it done Saturday and still gets skipped over for the middleweight title shot.
Yeah, it's interesting. AK, let me ask you this, because we talked about this in between the links. Like, is a win? I think we can all agree that Robert Whitaker has done enough to get another fight with Israel Adesanya. He has done enough. Those wins are impressive. He has stood out amongst the pack at 185 pounds. So with that being said, we've already had Whitaker kind of falls into that category of Dana White saying, he doesn't want to fight him, or no, he wasn't ready to fight, or no, he doesn't want to fight for the title. Like, we've already gone down that road. So is a win enough for Whitaker? Or does he have to go in there and just put on a show and either get just a dominant, unbelievable 25-minute decision, or does he have to put away Gaslum? Is that the only way he gets a title shot, or do you think a win's enough?
I mean, a knockout is, obviously a finish is going to increase his chances like exponentially. Because like we said, a decision win probably just keeps his stock the same. I mean, that's even if it's like a complete wipeout, like 50-45 or 50-44. I don't know what it is that the UFC. I do know what it is. He lost to Israel Adesanya already, and pretty definitively. So I guess that's hard for Dana White and the matchmakers to shake. But for me, it's like I'm always a believer in rematches are just as likely not to go probably more likely not to go the same way as they do the first time, assuming you're talking about two such high level guys. So I'm like dying for that matchup. Like I would love that. And even for me, it's like, even if you put on like a workman-like decision on Saturday, which is kind of what I'm predicting will happen, I still think he should get the next shot. But I mean, look, Jed and Jose have raised some good points. A lot of people have raised some good points that deserve, and we said earlier in the show, we say this every show, deserves doesn't mean anything. That word has no currency in combat sports, and not just the UFC. Any combat sports organization, there's always reasons not to give a supposed like surefire number one contender a title shot. Darren Till's a fresh matchup. There's a lot of heat there. Israel Adesanya wants it. He's talked about that matchup a lot. He rarely talks about fighting Robert Whitaker again. Why would he? It's a dangerous opponent who he's already beaten. So yeah, I think Whitaker, I don't think needs, but his chances would be increased so much by, again, huge, big 5-round performance, like again, just dominating multiple knockdowns, and or of course a second round KO, something like that. But I don't see that happening. So I hate to say, because I am the prince of positivity, I think he should get the shot. But I'm kind of with these guys. I think he wins. But after this weekend, we don't see him move much in the picture, unfortunately. If
you want to hear Jed Meshu's thoughts on Darren Till, make sure you watch Between the Links yesterday, because it was a pretty passionate plea about a pretty passionate statement.
That's not my fault. He's not good. There's one word
that's fun.
And it's Donald Cerrone when Cerrone's like 36.
Oh, are we all picking Robert Whitaker tomorrow? Anyone going with Calvin?
I'm taking Calvin.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be a banger of a fight.
You're taking Calvin?
I think of all. No, I'm picking Whitaker, but I think it's going to be of the three main events happening on this weekend, including the boxing match. I think in terms of the most exciting fight, it will be that one.
You're picking Gaslum, Jed? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I'm taking Kelvin. I honestly would have felt better about taking Kelvin had he not fought Ian Heinisch. That performance was just dog, but. I was picking Kelvin back when they were supposed to fight 2 years ago. I think that he's just really rough now matchup for Whitaker. I think that his hands are just gonna find the mark a little more than Bobby Knuckles, and Kelvin is basically unknockoutable, and Whitaker is not, and that's like Whitaker's gonna have to fight a really, really clean fight, because Gaslum's just gonna keep putting on the pressure and keep just pounding that wood, and you'd have to see a lot of leg kicks, and really just if he wins, it'll be one of, if not his best, like Whitaker's best performances. But I just think the style is really rough for him.
I'm falling in and out of love with Jed, says John Dagnan. So there you go. A lot of
it's an experience.
That's why you're perfect for Between the Links, Jed. Because there's a love-hate relationship from week in, week out. I'm going with Whitaker too. I think it's a decision, and I still think Darren Till is going to get the title shot at the end of the year. So there we are. We also got things got a little testy at the weigh-ins with Jakar Close and Jeremy Stevens. So that's a fun fight. I'm looking forward to that. We did lose a fight. Zara Farn and Josiah Nunez is off the card because Farn weighed in above the featherweight limit for a bantamweight fight. So there we are. The UFC even trying to make it a catchweight.
They changed it this week to a catchweight to accommodate. I assume her team told Nunez's team that, I don't think we're going to make 135. Maybe just give us a few pounds to work with. And Nunez's team was probably like, all right, whatever, fine. No big deal. And then, yes, she still missed. That's not right. She didn't just miss the 139-pound catchweight. If this was a featherweight bout, she would have missed weight for that as well. So not great, Zara Farn. Not great. And might be the last time we hear that name in the UFC for the foreseeable future.
So I didn't know
I thought
this.
It was
That's
a typo. Yeah, I thought it was a typo. That it was supposed to be
confusing. It was very confusing.
That means this card's only 11 fights now, which is slowly getting to a reasonable number. If we could get one more to drop off tomorrow, we'd be in good shape.
The magic number of 10.
Of course, we will see Chase Sherman take on Andrei Arlovsky, who takes this fight in a little more than a week's notice for Parker Porter. Abdul Razak Al Hassan is back against Jacob Malkoun. Now, if Razak Al Hassan is going to get back to his old ways with a ferocious knockout, this is probably the best opportunity for him to do that. This one at 185. Luis Pena versus Alex Munoz is fun. Tracy Cortez is back against Justine Quiche. We got Juan Espino versus Alexander Romanov. That's the Jed Meshew special. I'll let you weigh in on that in a second. Lupita Godinez makes her UFC debut against Jessica Penne. We got Gerald Mearshot versus Bartosz Fabinski. We got Austin Hubbard versus Dakota, not saying his nickname, Bush, and Anthony Burchak versus Tony Grave. Listen, if they want to say it on ESPN Plus tomorrow, if Bruce Buffer or Joe Martinez knocks out that nickname, we're all going to be in a good place. So, Jed, wax poetically on Espino Romanov for those who missed Between the Links, and why is that the low-key banger of the weekend?
So look, if you miss Between the Links, what are you doing? Get your life together and go catch up on that so you too can mock E. Casey Leydon for his, at this point, clearly personal attacks on me. But I'm going to say what I said yesterday. Look, if you go back last week, I gave you a low-key banger. Mike, what was the low-key banger I predicted last week?
The Cuban Missile Crisis versus Smilin' Sam.
And what was the fight of the night last week?
Exactly that.
Exactly.
John Makdessi and Ignacio Bahamas.
Sure wasn't. Go check the Wikipedias, AK. Take your positivity and be positive about which one got the 50K bonus, because it wasn't whatever nonsense you were talking about. Because I know talent when I see it. What I see with Alexander Romanov and Juan Espino is talent. Sure, it's talent that's hidden in layers and layers of soft, but it's going to be awesome. Both of these guys have, like, their last fights. Romanov won with a forearm choke, which is maybe the most demoralizing of all finishes in the sport, including the Ovin St. Preux choke. Like, that's forearm choke is real bad. And Juan Espino had a scarf hold choke. Like, these people are great in that they are huge men who grapple oddly. And they're going to have like 3 minutes of cardio. This is really going to be two walruses just slapping each other until one of them stops for either knocked out or they tap out. It's going to be great for as long as it lasts. And it's obviously my most non-boxing, most anticipated fight of the weekend.
I was just waiting for the applause from the live studio audience. Jose, low-key banger on this card for the UFC on Saturday.
I'm excited to watch Tracy Cortez fight. She's from Arizona, so I've seen a lot of her regional fights, her Kombache fights, her Invicta fights, all that stuff. She flies the Arizona flag, probably more prominently than most fighters. And outside of that, obviously Jeremy Stevens bumping up to lightweight against Drakkar Klose. They got a little scuffle on there. Speaking of Arizona residents, Drakkar Klose fighting out of Fight Ready too. He's been up and down in his career. Hasn't fought in a long time in the UFC. Austin Hubbard is going to be another banger of a fighter to watch. He's the one that made I keep forgetting his name. The one that he's the one that made that guy quit on the stool, right? The one you interviewed,
Max Roshkov.
Yes, that guy. So a lot of fun fight. Jessica Penne, former Invicta atomweight champ, finally back in the UFC after God knows how long she's been out, and she's needed a paycheck for a bit. So maybe not the most high-level fights in terms of two competitors, but Jeremy Stevens, Drakkar Klose is going to be super violent. Abdul Razak Al Hassan should probably get a violent knockout. I hate to say it, we might see the last of Andrei Arlovski in the UFC in this fight. I know he's even saying in his scrums, I was afraid I was going to get cut after my last loss to Tom Aspinall. So if he loses again tomorrow, then I think that might be it for Andrei Arlovski in the UFC, which is unfortunate. I don't know if Bellator would want him or PFL would want him or whatever, but I hope he continues to fight. But there's a lot of fun, singular fighters. And obviously the Romanov-Espino fight rules, but Jid already talked enough about that. So, yeah, tune in for UFC Vegas 24 because there's a lot of bright prospects on this card.
Absolutely. AK, what is yours? What's your diamond in the rough, so to speak?
I'll just say Andre ain't retiring if he's done with the UFC. So he's fighting until at least he's like 45, 46 years old. I think someone out there, has a job for Arlovski, and I think he'll happily sign up for it. He's a warrior. He's a warrior. But that Fedor rematch has been simmering, and I think it's just right. It's like we've been letting it simmer for a long time, and it's just right to pull the trigger on it. But no, I also like Jose mentioned. I am intrigued. I don't know how good the fight's going to be, but I am intrigued by seeing Jessica Penne return. Her first fight since April 22nd, 2017, almost 1,500 days. That is a lifetime. That's like 20 years in MMA years. So everything is just so different now. And she's always been a good fighter. She obviously she hasn't had like amazing success in the UFC, but I do want to see where she ends up now. She is 38 years old, so again, probably closer, unless you're counting on Arlovski years, probably closer to the end of her career than than the prime. But again, it's a long layoff. We'll see how she looks. But I'm just happy to see her back. And also, I like her opponent, Lupita. Apparently, I don't know if they're going to go with Lupi on the broadcast, but Lupita Godinez, who represents both Mexico and also BC, which is my home province. So I wish I knew a little more about her, but I do know she put on an amazing fight with Vanessa Demopoulos to win the LFA strawweight title. Definitely one to watch at 115 pounds. So that's probably the prelim fight that I have my eye on.
Lupita Godinez has fought like 12 times since Jessica Penne last competed. Basically, her entire MMA career has gone on while Jessica Penne has been out of action. Right. So it's very interesting. Lupi is a very good fighter. She brings a lot of action. She's a massive favorite in this fight, so I'm looking forward to that. I really like the Luis Pena Alex Munoz fight. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. There's some good ones. This is one of those cards that on paper doesn't steal the show, especially when compared to like the excitement surrounding the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren thing, how everyone's going to watch that, but really competitive matchups. And this has that feel that it could be just like a really entertaining card, despite not being superstar heavy. So I like it. Should be a lot of fun. We got a few minutes left. So we'll go to the truck. Casey, anyone got some questions? Some good stuff that we can react to?
Mike, I'm so proud of you for not making us talk about Phil frickin' Davis. Way to go.
We can watch that tonight. Jose's talking, but he muted himself, so maybe that's a good thing. I don't know.
There's construction outside. I don't want to be rude, but the Phil Davis fight is in what, like 7 hours? That would render this video obsolete after tonight.
We saw today that question, how much is Askren making? We saw today the disclosed salary, $500,000 just at the purse, but as we know, he is very likely getting pay-per-view points, some other bonuses. So I think people have been saying, estimating what, $2 million, something like that, like around $2 million going to make the fight.
That's
pretty good.
Right. Sure,
that's pretty good. That is pretty good. Can't hate on that.
I'll box Jake Paul for $2 million.
He's probably out getting in Bitcoin. So that $2 million is more like what? $200 million? I mean, come on, in 2 weeks from now?
That depends entirely. Could be anything. Could be a boat.
It could be $2. It could be $2.
It could be a boat. Well said. Could be anything. Could be a boat is a boat, but the mystery box. Is there any? Is there anything the UFC? Oh, absolutely. Is there anything the UFC can learn from the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren I don't know. Build, we can call it kind of successful because everybody's talking about it. We've spent a lot of time talking about it, but Jose, I'll ask you: is there anything the UFC can take from Triller and Jake Paul and Ben Askren, the build to this fight, to make their world a little bit better?
Better? I don't know if that's the phrase I would use, but I would say, what do they do differently than what the UFC is doing now outside of having basically a celebrity fight? Because they did open workouts, they did press conferences, they did a virtual media day. They did a press conference a couple weeks out for the ticket announcement. They had all the guys come out one at a time to do that presser. Then they broke off to do one-on-ones. And then they did a virtual workout, and they did a virtual media day. And then they did another virtual press conference, and now they're going to do weigh-ins, and they're going to fight. That sounds an awful lot like what the UFC is doing right now. The only difference is the UFC does it every single week. So it's like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So outside of getting I don't know. Yeah, you know what they can do? Get Logan Paul to fight in the UFC. Get a Paul brother. That's what they can learn. That will generate clicks and traffic, as everyone's saying. But in terms of the build, I don't know. It seems like Triller took a lot of the UFC's playbook out of this. So
yeah,
get a celebrity to fight.
I mean, they got everything they could out of Ben Askren in the UFC, at least from what was available. I mean, they didn't have Jake Paul available to them, so and Ben created buzz and did it. What do you think, Jed?
You think that's true? I don't actually think that's true. They could have done way better with Ben Askren. I think that they're happy with what happened with Ben Askren, but like I think all of you are wrestling people. I'm not 100%, but I feel like Jose has been like a pro wrestling guy. I've never been that, but my understanding of how that whole sport works is like that you can grow
he said
stars.
sport.
You get to dictate
It is a sport.
Entertainment, whatever the hell it is. How
Oh,
it
it's a
all
sport.
works.
You're right.
You can grow people, like build stars, because you get to control the book, and like they should just give it Ben Askren softballs. Like it worked out with Robbie Lawler, arguably, but like, and I guess it worked out to some extent because Masvidal got this big boost. But they could have easily thrown Ben Askren like a couple of softballs and really built him into something, and maybe he would still be there. And instead, they got 1 year out of him, and I don't think they're upset with it. But I feel like they could have done more with him. That being said, I don't think Triller's like. I think Triller's leveraging him in the exact same way. And that's fine. The thing I will say that Triller could take from the UFC is, or that the UFC could take from Triller, sorry, is the same thing we talk about all the time, the pageantry of it. Because let me tell you, what I'm excited for on Saturday, outside of watching mostly not entertaining boxing matches and then one clown show, I get to see Mario Lopez host an event. That seems kind of cool. Like Mario Lopez, charismatic guy. I'm in on AC Slater doing something about fight sport. Let's go. Justin Bieber's performing. Like, okay, I'm never going to go to a Biebs concert, but like, if I'm there, sure. Like, you could just add a bunch of other cool things to it that they might be doing too much of that with the Triller card, but at least they're doing something different or interesting or adding a bit of showmanship as opposed to the same milquetoast, prefab UFC stuff we get week in, week out for years on end.
AK, let me ask you this question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll let you build on this, but I'm curious. By the end of the year, will we see a Triller MMA event?
No. I don't think like so? a pure just MMA with no boxing and no other stuff. No, I don't think. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think there's anyone. I think it's much easier to get celebrities and other fine folks like that to get into a boxing match as opposed to MMA, and that's really the big draw here, right? I don't know. Maybe we get. You know what? It's funny. We just mentioned it. Maybe by the end of the year we get Arlovsky Fedor, right, headlining a Triller MMA event. But no, I would see that as something more down the road. Like I absolutely see that happening now that we've spoken it into existence. But I would see that more as a 2022 thing. I think Triller's will stick with boxing for now, and I don't know if they would ever do just an MMA event. I think it would be a mixed thing, and I think they'd make a spectacle of that, which is kind of what I was about to add on to Jed and Jose's points is that that's the one thing UFC. People remember when the Dana White era and the Zuffa era kind of rolled around. That's the one thing they stripped down was the spectacle of MMA. People, I don't know if people remember, of course, like the entrance. They used to have the circle entrance and all the pyro and stuff. Yeah. That was all gone after a while. And I get it. It wasn't worth it for them at that point. But I do feel like they've been the show has looked the same now for almost too long, and they've shied so far away from spectacle and from being as real as it gets, that they've forgotten, again, sort of like, the cool stuff about sports and sports entertainment, right? That which they are part of. They are part of sports entertainment. And I think that's what Triller is embracing. I love the concert stuff. I know it's a mileage may vary thing. I know some people are just like, I just want to get to the fights, but that's what draws people who aren't necessarily interested in fighting. And they hear Justin Bieber or Snoop Dogg or I'm old. I didn't know who half the musical acts were on the last show, but I still thought it was cool. I still thought like, there's like a different energy. It's fresh. It's different. I laugh when people say, I saw people and like just random people making in our comments on social media sometimes making fun of Bellator's production. I'm like, Bellator has a way better looking, like in some ways, I say, much better looking product than the UFC. The entrances are so much cooler. I think they do a better job of showcasing the fighters somewhat and making them look like big stars. So if there's one thing that UFC could learn, from this whole thing is let's get back to embracing the spectacle a bit more. They don't need 9 musical acts on the card like Triller or whatever. But I do think that there's stuff they could do outside of just presenting the fights in such a straightforward and frankly occasionally bland manner. So give me the show, give me the glitz and glamour. I know a lot of the hardcores won't agree, but that's stuff that's interesting to me.
I think what you said about the stage and the circular and everything, that's a lot of seats they can't sell tickets to if they put a big entrance and a ramp and everything. That's the only reason they did that in the early days, because they couldn't sell out. So they put a giant stage in there to make it seem like they sold out. That's kind of Bellator's like if anyone's been to a Bellator show before the pandemic and everything, the stage took up half the arena. So then it felt like they were fighting in front of a wall. Like if you ever I remember World Series of Fighting would come to Phoenix, they would literally put the cage up against a stage that like a Broadway show would be on. So they would be fighting in an auditorium. It feels like Bellator has auditorium fights a lot. But on the flip side, when they do kind of remember when they had those Dynamite shows, it did seem like a bigger deal because it made a big spectacle of it. And the UFC, when they make a big spectacle over things like with the Izzy entrance or the Conor and Mendes entrance, it's for memorable. So I don't hate the UFC entrance. I do kind of because remember when what's like the best entrance outside of Tyson Fury in boxing history? I think it's when Mike Tyson used to just walk out in a hoodie, looking like a prisoner, and his musical entrance, his music was literally just two pieces of iron clanging together. It was so basic and lo-fi that it worked, and I don't hate it. I don't hate the UFC entrances. Also, Jed, I want to say I am beyond envious of you that you get to see Mount Westmore perform live. Snoop Dogg's super group.
I was gonna say, Jed, name two members of Mount Westmore. Jed, name two members.
It's Snoop Dogg's new group. It's Snoop Dogg, Ice Cube, Too Short, and E40.
Oh, that's phenomenal! I'm excited. I get to watch that too.
I will watch E40 do anything. Mike, AK, are you big E40 fans?
I can't name E40. I know I've heard him before, but I can't name E40.
Someone put out, and this is completely unrelated to any combat sports, but it is important. Someone to put out a study over which hip hop artist has created the most words that are now recognized by the public. I'm pretty sure E40 was number one. In terms of
what is some of the phrases? What some of the phrases he has created?
All good, you feel me?
Oh, stop it!
Your collar.
What?
All of that. Yeah, he coins you feel me? Hey, AK, I will beat Jed in Between the Links sometime. You feel me? That's E40 right there.
He invented that.
He coins the phrase in the hip hop culture.
Stop it!
I'm not, man.
Stop it.
Jose,
go look it up.
I had no idea that this was who this people Mount Westmore is. That's awesome. I'm now even more excited than I was already.
E40 for life.
I'd pay to watch that. I would pay to go.
Have you heard of Justin Bieber? Have you heard of Justin Bieber? He's also performing on Saturday night.
Yeah, he's got one song that I think is okay. The rest of it, I'm too old to really be a Biebs guy. But good for him. Diplo's gonna be there, so that's I at least know a song there. Like I said, there's a little too much in the musical category, but I just feel like the UFC could do something. They could add a little bit of pageantry, especially for big fights. You don't do it for every Tom, Dick, and Fight Night card, but the pay-per-views, they could add something. But so, yeah, that's what they could take.
Yeah, I agree with what a lot of you gentlemen are saying, but I think we are just about out of time here. A lot to digest, a lot to look forward to. Of course, the combat sports action continues very soon. All right, we'll answer this real quick. Over under 1 million pay-per-view buys for this fight, Jose.
Over, but it's gonna be 1.1.
AK.
Go to Jed first. I'm doing some research. Go to Jed first, please.
Oh, it's gonna go over, and I love that it's gonna go over. The UFC can't do this, which is that is easily my favorite part of all of this. Is what an absolute condemnation of the UFC's entire business model this is. Hey guys, I know that this is ostensibly your job. Your job is to build fights that people care about, and 3 times a year you can do this. And some YouTuber just pops off his couch and is like, I'm a dick around and do this on the side and just blow your doors off. It's the absolute best. I love so much that fight sport can just cannot be more interesting than famous people doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's going over 1 million. AK, over 1 million?
I was gonna say I love Jed bringing that up because it makes me think man, if the UFC somehow can't find a way to make Ngannou Jones happen, and they don't believe that they can make that fight sell 2 million, they don't. That just shows you the UFC sucks at promotion. They suck. Or I say maybe Dana White specifically. I don't want to hate too much on the good, hardworking people of the UFC, but in general, like, yeah, he's right though. The fact that a YouTuber can, as you said, just get off his couch and sell what we think will be quite possibly seven-figure pay-per-view, and the UFC can't figure out how to market like John Jones, Francis Ngannou, or any number of other compelling matchups is just so depressing. Tyson Jones did what? Tyson Jones did what? 1.2 million estimated, I think. I don't think we ever got an exact number, but some in that range, eh?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Is this gonna? Was it the price the same? $79.99.
Just say over and move on.
No, I think about these things. It's got to be over, right? It's got to be over.
AK, how do you judge stuff? Because like I've said this before, the way I judge all like fight popularity is just when people that know that I am the dude and that they know who does fighting stuff. We're like, hey, do you know about this thing that's happening this weekend?
Yeah,
I got it last time for the Tyson fight. Getting it a lot this time, like, and that is always borne out true. Like I never get, hey, have you heard that Phil Davis is fighting this weekend? No, it's not a thing that happens. But hey, Jake Paul is boxing some dude. Yeah, I know. I'm going. Okay, like that's how I know. This thing's gonna do a mill. Easy.
Yeah, no, it's the mom test. It's the mom test. Does one of your parents know that this fight is happening? And if they bring it up to you, that's usually a very, very good sign that we're breaking into, right, like you said, kind of seven figure territory. But otherwise, I have no friends outside of you guys, Jed. So that, I mean, really, thanks for bringing that up. So that question has I can't use that as a gauge. But yes, theoretically, I understand your point.
I want to be extremely.
I think we're going.
AK and I are not friends. So just don't misconstrue.
We are work acquaintances. This is true. I'm just trying to break it down. Yeah, this is true. This is fair. Yeah,
I think it's gonna smash 1 million. Like I said, I was on the show earlier this week. My mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, first thing they said to me when I walked into the door to have dinner with them was, "Oh my God, you're gonna watch the Jake Paul fight on April 17th? I can't wait. I can't wait to watch it." So them two who don't watch anything besides like, detective shows and like weird Netflix series they're gonna drop the money and watch this fight. They're gonna watch this fight on Saturday.
Do they know who Jake Paul is?
Yes.
Like before this, did they like? Because like straight up, I had no idea who Jake Paul was until this became a thing.
They know. My sister-in-law definitely knew who he was. Yeah, definitely knew who he was. She knew about like his first fight with KSI or whatever, or maybe that was Logan, but she knew all about that stuff. That was Logan.
Jake's amateur fight, he fought Deji, who's like KSI's little brother. So it was bro versus bro, not blood brothers.
Fair enough. All right, well, there's the music. They're playing us off. So thank you very much for watching. I'm hoping I will be back for the post-fight show to react to all of this. I'm hoping to be home in time to watch the two main events on the split screen. I have to DJ a wedding tomorrow, so I don't know who's taking the reins for the Q&A. I assume it'll
probably be this guy.
The Prince of Positivity, but that's that. So thank you for watching. For AK, for Jed, for Jose, Casey on the ones and twos. I am Mike Heck. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.
Love you guys.
Happy birthday, AK.
No.
Yes.